After reading the title of this video, you're probably a little confused as to the question, how can 3D printing really put us on Mars? Well, that's why I made it, because I want to tell you how it's actually quite fascinating. So stay tuned, you guys are really going to enjoy this. Here we are in the year 2021, the year after the worldwide pandemic. Self-driving cars are on the brink of being completely mainstream. Cardi B has the best song of the year in 2020. Now, after reading the title of this article, you may be wondering, what does that have to do with the topic of putting humans on Mars and 3D printing? Well, it doesn't. Just thought I'd start off with some small talk before we get into this incredible meat of the essay. So, I'll get on with it. Why don't we start at the beginning? It's 1984, Ronald Reagan just got re-elected, and Prince's When Doves Cry is the #1 song of the year. Another useless fact for this, but I figured I'd continue the trend and show you just how low we have gotten with music. Anyways, on to the point. Why is the year 1984 important? Well, this is the year the first 3D printer was invented. No, it wasn't some massive machine that took up an entire 1,000-square-foot office and needed 10 people to operate it. It was more civilized than that. Chuck Hull wanted a way to produce prototypes for companies faster than in traditional injection molding and other types of expensive manufacturing. So using UV lights and resin, he invented the first additive manufacturing machine. This type of 3D printer was called SLA, or stereolithography apparatus. In 1987, you could officially purchase your very own 3D printer. It retailed for a cool $300,000 USD. When adjusted for inflation, that's about $690,000 in today's cash. Chuck's 3D printing company is still in business today. 3D Systems pulls around $647 million a year, located in South Carolina. Now, good old Chuck has been given the mantle of creating the first 3D printer. However, SLA is not nearly the most popular kind of additive manufacturing. Scott Crump was a co-founder of a company called Stratasys. Like 3D Systems, it's still around today. They pull in a similar $636 million in 2019. Scott wanted a more accessible way to enter the additive manufacturing field, as SLA is a very meticulous process. To prep the printer, you need to make sure that the vat is clean, then you must carefully pour liquid resin into the vat. The resin can be harmful to your skin. After you print, you need to wash your item after you remove it from the printer. Then cure it with UV lights. As someone who has had experience with SLA, this sounds a lot easier than it is. Another type of 3D printer that was created around the same time as SLA is called FDM. With FDM, you can simply take your model off the build area and you're done. FDM stands for Fused Deposition Modeling. This is the printer that Scott Crump created to combat SLA. FDM works by using a series of codes embedded into the 3D printer. A computer tells the XYZ axes, which are controlled by stepper motors, which direction to move. Then a spool of plastic filament is inserted to the extruder that then moves the material to the hot end, melting the plastic. It is then laid down onto a build surface, layer upon layer, stacking them and building your item. As the plastic cools, the layers adhere to each other. This is also known as FFF, or fused filament fabrication. This is the type of 3D printing that will actually help put us on Mars. By the way, check out Maker Muse's video on SLA 3D printing and tech tips. It's a great video, and some of these clips are from that. The Red Planet, the fourth from our sun, is a 13,263 mile long hike around the circumference. This planet has baffled scientists and conspiracy theorists alike for tens of years, if not hundreds, as it was discovered in 1610. Recently, companies like SpaceX have explored trying to put a man on the planet. However, getting there is the easy part. Now that might be crazy, but surviving the windstorms that last for days, the lack of a hospitable atmosphere, the loneliness the astronauts will feel being almost 83 million miles away from Earth, and building a base on the planet that will be able to support life will be the real battle. This is where 3D printing comes into play. When it comes to manufacturing a shelter, the traditional way is to have multiple machines and multiple companies come together to create this one structure. Someone needs to come and pour a foundation, then a construction company needs to come build a house. An electrician needs to come do all the wiring, then a landscaper, and it goes on and on. What if you could do most of that with one machine? Create a structure with a simple computer code and a 3D printer. Now, if you even have seen a 3D printer today, I'm betting it was pretty small. So, how could you build a house or shelter with a 3D printer? Well, in countries like China and Mexico, this is already happening, even in some parts of the United States. Using basically a concrete pour on the axes like the ones I described earlier, it's just a larger scale of a small FDM 3D printer people have in their houses. On average, it costs between $150,000 and $400,000 to build a house the traditional way. Using 3D printing, a 2,000 square foot house only costs around $20,000 to produce. So, with 3D printing, building a house is simpler and more cost efficient. So what's the catch? This is a question I asked myself while writing this many times. I think the most difficult part would be selecting a material that would be able to withstand the harsh weather and totally different gravity and atmosphere of Mars. Now, they use fast-drying concrete right now. However, it is not going to work in Mars, obviously. So guys, the biggest challenge will obviously be selecting the material to build our shelters on Mars. Now, we can't use that rapid drying concrete that we're using for houses on planet Earth right now. It's just not going to work. So what type of material would work? Well, I think it might be something a little out of the ordinary. I think it's going to be some sort of plastic. Now, you'd think that it'd be metal or something like that, but you really can't heat up a item that hot on such a foreign planet. You need an immense power source, I think, to do that. Metal 3D printers do exist on Earth right now, but they do require quite a bit of power. So just heating up plastic would work. Now, what kind of plastic? I don't think I'm educated enough in that, but I'm thinking some sort of nylon or even polycarbonate, as it's light and very tough. So that's the video today, guys. I really hope you enjoyed, and I learned something, and I hope you did too. Now, please remember, I am not an expert in space. I have only read things that I have learned from Google. Thank God for Google. And I just wanted to let you guys know about that. So make sure to check out custom3dllc.com and all my social media links in the description below. And I also used some clips from Maker Muse's YouTube channel. I'll also put his link in the description below. Not that it's going to make a big difference, seeing that I don't have that big of a YouTube channel, but I figured I'd just do it because it's the right thing to do. Also, if you're interested in purchasing a 3D printer or 3D printing filament, check out the link in the description below for matterhackers.com. So guys, I'll see you later.